Hello there, folks. My name is Spoonks, and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Ron's Gone Wrong, making 3.5 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to 17 million and its worldwide total to 46 million. So after falling off the charts last week, it has finally moved back up into the same place it was when we initially talked about it, back in 5th place, but still, that is very unprecedented and very surprising, and it really shows that the word of mouth from people who have seen this movie is very good. It even had a second, well, not a second week, but a drop off of just 5%. That is insane. And I think the reason why is because, well, it's no longer Halloween and families can't really see the Addams Family 2 anymore. So they had this movie as a second choice, and many people decided to go see it this weekend. And I'm very happy that they did that, and now the film will cross 50 million worldwide, which is very good. Still no word on the initial budget, but I think crossing 50 million worldwide is definitely a promising sign for where this movie will turn out financially, and I hope that this film continues to significantly drop less and have great holds throughout the remainder of the weeks, even if it doesn't last in the top 5 very long, because the movie really needs it. Because even though this is very good and a very promising thing showing reception for the film, it's still not doing nearly as well as it should. It is still placed just under $100,000 behind Spirit Untamed, where it will surpass it, thankfully, and I think that it will get to 20 million very soon, but it's still not enough to reach the same levels of success as other animated films that have come out, like The Croods, or Raya, or Boss Baby, or, like I said, The Addams Family 2, which was just a juggernaut when it originally released. But even with all of the negative things I've said, it still makes me very happy that this movie was able to make it back into the top 5 at least, because once again, it does show that people are going out to see it. It's just not as enough as they should be. But still, I'm so happy that I get to continue to talk about this movie on the series otherwise, and I still hope that the drop offs and the holdovers are as good as they have been for the past couple of weeks, even if it's going to get knocked off by another family movie, which we'll talk about later, that's coming out this week. But it still makes me very happy that this film at least got another shot at being in the top 5 charts this week. Number 4 was Venom Let There Be Carnage, making 4.4 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to 197 million and its worldwide total to 424 million. So yeah, Venom continues its winning streak. It actually went up a rank, which is very good, and pushed its total to just around 3 million away from 200 million domestically, which is insane. And I think there's no doubt about it that it will cross it. I don't think it's going to surpass the first film or Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, but this is still more than satisfactory, I believe. And with how well it's doing worldwide, I can see it even crossing $500 million. I don't think it's going to be as quickly as the next week's episode, but I think it will have a chance at snagging that milestone as well. So once again, it's another solid week for this movie. Even with very stiff competition, it still was able to keep audiences interested enough in rewatching it, or maybe even bring in some newcomers as well, because it went up a rank for a reason and its holds are still great. And I think people are just really enjoying the movie, so not much more I can say about this movie except job well done, guys. Number 3 was No Time to Die, making 6 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 143 million and a worldwide total of 667. So like Venom Let There Be Carnage, this film continues to do well. It had a really impressive hold this weekend, and even with, once again, stiff competition, it still brought in a ton of people to see it and was able to stay in 3rd place from last weekend, which is incredible. Not to mention, it's still crushing it worldwide. I mean, it's about 33 million from 700 million worldwide and ever so close to Fast Nine's worldwide total, which I think the chances of it getting close or even surpassing it just keep increasing with each and every week. This movie is such an international hit, and domestically, while not as impressive as its worldwide totals, it's still doing pretty good for itself. It's about to surpass 150 million domestically, and I think it might have a chance at getting close or maybe even surpassing Quiet Place Part 2. I know I had my doubts about that initially, but seeing how well this movie continues to do, I think that might now be a possibility. So things are looking pretty good for No Time to Die right now, but it will be interesting to see how well it continues to do from this point on, as I believe this week it will be released at home on demand, which is very earlier than I anticipated. I'm sure many of you anticipated. And the question that comes with that is what's going to happen? Will it start to falter down? Will it continue to hold well? I don't really know. We're just going to have to wait and see. But as for right now, like Venom Let There Be Carnage, I think things are going just fine for this movie, and I think that we should all be pretty satisfied with how it's done, even if the domestic totals aren't as impressive as the international totals. This film is still a juggernaut, and it's doing pretty good. Number 2 was Dune, making 7.7 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 84 million and a worldwide total of 330 million. So this weekend's drop off was better than last week's. It fell 51%, which is a pretty solid hold in its third weekend, and it shows that word of mouth is stronger than many of us probably anticipated. It's still bringing in people into the theater, which is very good, and it has quickly become one of the biggest movies Warner Brothers has released all year. It has surpassed Space Jam: A New Legacy domestically and is slowly pacing and catching up to Godzilla vs. Kong's domestic total of just $100 million. And I think its chances of surpassing that total are pretty good right now. It still seems to be doing well with audiences, and people are still going to see it. I'm not sure if it will surpass it worldwide. It seems something that's so close yet so far, so we're just going to wait out on that for the time being, but that still doesn't mean that this movie is doing badly in any sort of way. It's at 330 million, so I think 400 million is a pretty safe bet in this movie's future. And once again, I think 100 million is also a safe bet for this movie because of how well received this movie is and how the buzz is still surging with this movie. While not as highly or as big as many people expected with its opening weekend, people are still going out to see it and support it, which is very good once again, and it's still one of the biggest hits Warner Brothers has released all year, and of course they're very happy. I mean, they greenlit a sequel and that's still coming out, so that's very good. And like I said, it's going to cross 400 million worldwide and 100 million domestically. And all in all, things are pretty good for Dune as far as box office success goes and critical reception goes. So it's a pretty solid weekend for Dune. And there's really not much more I could add to this except that, yeah, it's doing pretty solid. And I look forward to seeing how well it does from here on out. So, good job. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, and that was Eternals, making 71 million on its opening weekend domestically and is sitting at 161 million worldwide. So first off, no surprise that this was the number 1 movie of the weekend. It is a Marvel movie and they have killer opening weekends. And where it stacks, it is the 4th biggest opening weekend of the post-pandemic, topping Fast 9 70 million by just, well, $1 million, and sits behind Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Black Widow, and Venom Let There Be Carnage. And this is also the biggest weekend in general for the box office since Venom Let There Be Carnage, which, once again, was to be expected, but still pretty solid. And also, the film costs a reported $200 million, and seeing how the film is already just about 40 million away from that total worldwide, I think it's safe to say that this film is going to make some sort of money, and might even get a chance to double it at some point worldwide at the very least. However, I do think we're going to see something very interesting and unusual for a Marvel movie. And we talked about this last week, and that is that the film is very divisive. You either really like this movie or you really, really don't. And it's not just the critics, audiences as well are also very divided on this movie. It received a B cinema score, and while that might be very good on your report card in school, that is not something you want to see in regards to audience reaction and reception. That is not, you want something like an A or an A minus or even a B plus at the very least. And as previously mentioned, critics did not like it. It has, at the last time I checked, it has a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. And while that's not as awful as many people are making it sound, like, it could be worse. It could be like 15 or 30%. And yeah, well, it's not nearly that type of bad. It's also not something very good. So I think this is going to be an interesting case with this movie. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes from here, how big the drop off is going to be. Will it hold well like Shang-Chi, or will it drop like Black Widow? We just don't know, because so far things are looking pretty solid for the movie at the very least in like terms of like opening weekends, because this is not a bad opening weekend. Far from it. This is, once again, it's the fourth biggest opening of the post-pandemic, and I think we are all satisfied with how well this movie opened to. But once again, it's really going to be interesting to see how well this movie does from this point on, because it is a very divisive movie, and we'll see if word of mouth really does help this movie out. But as far as opening weekends go, I think this is a solid start, because let me stress, this is not a flop, this is not a disaster. It's actually about to surpass its initial budget of $200 million worldwide. I think this movie is covered for now. Again, we'll see how word of mouth is, how big the second week drop is. Will it even stay at the number one spot? Okay, let's not go that far, because of course it's going to stay at the number one next week. But once again, it's going to be very interesting, because the reaction is much more differently than I think many of us anticipated for this movie to turn out, even with how different of a movie this is for Marvel. So I think this is going to be a movie that we're just going to have to wait and see to really determine how much of a success it is, because right now things are looking pretty good, but I said the same thing about Black Widow, and that had a significant drop in its second weekend. So we'll just have to wait and see for how well this movie does through its theatrical release. But as far as opening weekends go, it's off to a pretty solid start, in my opinion. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters this weekend. And this weekend, we really only have one major new release. I know Belfast is also opening this weekend, but from what I've been told, it's only releasing in around 600 theaters across the country this weekend, and given how little advertising and marketing there was for this movie, I don't really think that it's going to make a huge impact on the box office. So let's jump to the other major release, which is Clifford the Big Red Dog. Yes, after being indefinitely delayed from its September release date to this weekend over concerns of the coronavirus at the time, the film will now be released once again this Wednesday in theaters and on Paramount Plus for free the same day. You can thank Paw Patrol the movie for that, as Paramount was satisfied with how well that movie did theatrically and on the streaming service. And I think this movie has a lot of things working for it. One is that it's a family movie. It's the first big family movie out right now, since many people didn't really see Ron's Gone Wrong, and you can't really watch The Addams Family 2 anymore, so there's that. The movie will once again also be opening on Wednesday as opposed to Friday, so that'll definitely boost the opening weekend numbers for the film. and it will also be released in more theaters than Paw Patrol did, because when that movie released, Regal did not show it at any of their theaters because they had an issue with how Paramount decided to go the day and date route with that movie, but it appears they negotiated their terms and they will be showing it at Regal theaters. And the other thing that I think works to the benefit of this movie is that the day after it opens is Veterans Day, meaning that it's a national holiday, so schools across the country will be closed to celebrate the holiday, and I think families are going to use that opportunity to go check out the movie, to get out the house and spend time with each other. And good lord, have they been marketing this movie like crazy. I have seen several ads and promotional material for this one movie. They are really going all out with the promotion for this movie. And yeah, all honesty, I see a lot of things working in this movie's favor in terms of box office success. The only downside is, once again, it's doing the day and date hybrid release, so that will obviously affect the film's box office totals. So we'll see if that has a huge impact on the movie. But we will truly see how well this movie does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you guys think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, guys, stay sharp.